Hi, my name is Jerry Clipp from Clipp Coaching, and thanks for joining us today for 5 leadership skills that you didn't know that you needed. As I explained in an earlier video, I have over 25 years of experience in healthcare human resources, and I've learned a lot along the way, have lots of formal education, but even more importantly, experience during those years to kind of teach me what works and what doesn't work, and in many different various environments. And so my offering to you at this time is the wisdom of all those years, and to share with you things that you ought to consider as part of your leadership skill set and your capabilities, and those things that perhaps you might want to avoid as well. This video is on 5 leadership skills that you didn't know that you needed. And this course is really for various audiences. It's for people that are currently in leadership positions that want to grow and develop. It's also for folks that are just beginning in a new leadership role. They've never been in leadership before. And this course offers a lot of good tips, I think, on what you can do to become a better leader as you're learning and growing in leadership. And then the third audience that this information is good for are those emerging leaders. So those folks that desire to be in a leadership position at some point. So they want to learn all they can now of how to be a good and effective leader, so that when the opportunity comes, they can hit the ground running once they have that opportunity. So again, I'm grateful that you're here, and I hope that this information is useful to you. So 5 leadership skills you didn't know you needed. So the first question I want to ask that applies to the first leadership skill is this: how do you spend more time with your best employees and less time with your low-performing employees? How do you do that? So the first skill that we want to talk about here is that you as a leader need to make expectations crystal clear, and then manage performance conversations based on the type of employee they are. The first skill, and it's a vital one in my opinion, and that is, how do we make our expectations crystal clear to our team members and those on our team? How do we do that? So in this course, and it's called Managing Top Performance, the first half of that whole course is talking about how do you make expectations very clear. And I'll share with you one tip that I talk about in that video, and that is to simply use the words, I expect. And if you use those 2 words and follow those 2 words with very specific expectations, then you're doing your job. In my opinion, this is one of the topmost skills of a leader, is to make sure that expectations are very clear to their team members. If that's done correctly, then the leader has done what they needed to do as a good and effective leader. Once those expectations are crystal clear, then it's up to the employee then to decide whether they want to meet those expectations, whether they don't want to meet those expectations, or whether they want to exceed those expectations. And so this is where we get into the second half of the class, which talks about how do you hold these performance discussions based on what kind of employee they are. So those that decide to exceed the expectations, how do you have conversations with them? And my guess is that you don't have very many conversations with them, which I really strongly encourage you to do in this class, because my guess is that you're probably spending more time right now with those low performers or those bad employees, and less time, if any time at all, with your top performers and your best employees. And so what I encourage in this class is the very opposite of that. So how do we have these kinds of performance conversations with our top performers? Because you want to spend time with them. You don't want to ignore them, right? And then what kind of performance conversation do you have with your solid employees, your middle performers, which are the majority of your employees? And then how do you have those kinds of conversations that still need to happen with those low performers or bad employees? So it's 3 different conversations, and that's what we talk about in this course. This is another thing that you'll hear me say several times throughout that course, and that is this: there is nothing that drives your best employees out of an organization quicker than a leader who doesn't address the low performers or your bad employees. So let me say that again. There is nothing that drives your best employees out of an organization quicker than a leader who doesn't address the low performers or the bad employees. And so we need to be sure to address those low performers, but spend very little time with them. We want to be quick, we want to be clear, we want to be specific, and be gone with that conversation and spend more of our time over here with the top performers or your best employees. So that's the first skill that you didn't know that you needed, and that is to make expectations crystal clear and then manage performance conversations based on the type of employee they are. The second leadership skill that you didn't know that you needed is to take the time to verify facts and avoid making assumptions in order for you to be a more effective communicator with your teams. So the question I have for you is, how can I communicate more effectively to solve issues in my department? And again, the answer to that is with this skill, to take the time to verify facts, avoid making assumptions in order to be a more effective communicator. So we talk a lot in this class about how do you have effective dialogue with an employee. And believe it or not, I have a very specific definition of dialogue that I think will surprise you, but something that makes a lot of sense. And then how do we go about making sure that we're verifying truth rather than making assumptions? Unfortunately, our minds work in such a way that we make quick decisions, and we have perceptions based on how we've lived our lives and what experiences we've had in our lives. And because of that, we make very quick decisions. And so we have to understand that our minds automatically do that, and that we need to take the time to assess that and make sure that we are truly looking at facts rather than making assumptions about perceptions that we might have. So that's what this class is all about, is how do we become a more effective communicator in our department. Another part of the class talks about emotions and how those emotions come about, how we can try to resolve emotion when it comes to conversations, and sometimes hard conversations that we have with employees. So that's the second leadership skill that you didn't know that you needed. And again, that is to take time to verify the facts, avoid making assumptions so you can be a better communicator. The third leadership skill that you didn't know that you needed is, how do you help your employees communicate that they truly care about your customers? So my question for you is, how do I help my employees show our customers that our organization truly does care about them? You know, I started this course talking about culture. And boy, talk about something that's incredible and important in the culture when it comes is in an organization is when it comes to how do we treat our customers. And customers can feel whether you truly care about them or not. And so this is another important one, I think. That's why I included it in the top 5 leadership skills you didn't know you needed, because we need to make sure that our customers feel it from everyone that they interact with in our organization. So how do you motivate and get your employees to understand that and truly care about your customer? You know, in the healthcare world, I know in many places that I've worked, I know that our employees truly care about our patient. But I also know that they are bogged down with a lot of things that they have to do these days, with documentation, with following various guidelines and differing guidelines that come and go, projects that are happening within the hospital, quality measures, all those sorts of things. So there's lots of things that they need to consider as they're caring for a patient. And sometimes, unfortunately, the patient doesn't feel like they're being cared for, even though I know that they are, and I know that our employees truly care for them. So in this class, I actually offer 7 different skills that you can teach your employees, and it's all about communication and maybe taking an additional 5 seconds to emphasize some of these skills that I will be teaching you in this course. And they truly do make a huge difference in how the patient or the customer sees that they're being cared for, and that the person that they're interacting with in your organization truly does care about them. So that's number 3, to help your employees communicate that they truly care about your customers in your organization. Number 4 in the leadership skills you didn't know that you needed has to do with hiring the right person into the right role in your organization. So the skill is to utilize behavioral-based interviewing to find a candidate that will be a good job fit for your organization. So the question I have for you is, do you spend the time up front selecting the best candidate for a position? Or do you spend your time on the back end trying to manage out an employee? You know, the recruitment world is, it can be difficult to find good employees in this day and age. And I understand that, especially in the world that I come from in healthcare. It's very hard and difficult to find good employees. And so many times we just hire, we don't take the time to hire the right candidate. We have somebody in front of us. We know they're hard to find, so sometimes we hire them. As a matter of fact, just this morning I was reading an article in the Society for Human Resources Management, and this comes from Career Builder. And it's entitled, What Makes a Bad Hire? And it says, when it comes to costly workplace mistakes, few carry as hefty a price tag as making a wrong hire. And so this is why this made this top 5 list again. Because according to Career Builder, companies lost an average of $14,900 on every bad hire, almost $15,000 on every bad hire. And that's just on average. And my guess is that's pretty conservative. So in this article, Career Builder asked employers how they made a bad hire. So number 1 on the list, so 35% said while the candidate didn't have all the needed skills, they thought they could learn quickly. The second one on the top 5, which came out to be 33%, the candidate lied about his or her qualifications. 3, at 32%, they took a chance on a nice person. Is this sounding familiar to any of you? Number 4 on the list, at 30%, was pressured to fill the role quickly, what I was just talking about. We need somebody to care for our patients, so we need to find somebody quickly. And number 5, rounding out number 5 on this list at 29%, is had a hard time finding qualified candidates. As a matter of fact, they say what I just said just a minute ago. It says to make the right hiring decision, put in the time up front to think through the job description and the common traits of successful team members, as well as clearly define the company culture before the position is advertised. So again, do we take the time up front to select the right candidate? Or do we spend our time on the back end after we've already hired a candidate that wasn't as great, trying to manage them out of our organization? So it's your choice. Do you want to take that time up front or on the back end? And so this class is all about behavioral-based interviewing. And what's interesting to me is that I've come across a lot of people that say that they do behavioral-based interviewing, which I believe that they've probably been trained in it, but as they interview me or as I observe them interviewing others, they're not very effective at it. So this course goes and delves pretty deep into behavioral-based interviewing, formulating the questions. How do you create good questions based on those things that this article just talked about? What exactly are you looking for? And one of the things that I recommend is, who's your best employee in your department and what makes them your best employee? And then develop some questions around that criteria. You know, many of us hire for skills and end up terminating because of personality issues or behavior. And so we need to consider behavior and personality in these questions as well, not just skills. And so we go very, very deeply into that. And probably, I think, one of the most critical parts of this class is all about how do you ask the right follow-up questions. Because many people do ask behavioral-based interview questions, but they don't seem to follow up as they need to when responses come. And so we take a lot of time to talk about follow-up questions in that as well. So again, number 4 skill is utilize behavioral-based interviewing to find a candidate that will be a good job fit for your organization. Now we're rounding out our list of 5 skills. So leadership skill number 5 that you didn't know you needed is aligning your team's talents toward a unified goal to bring out the best efforts of the entire team and meet company objectives. So the question I have for you is, do you have the kind of environment within your department where a team can thrive? And that's what this class is all about. There are 3 main elements that I'll talk about in this class about how to create a successful team. If you think about the pit crews in car racing and how effective and efficient they are, each of them has a specific role, and they have to work closely together, and they have to work quickly together in order for the ultimate goal to happen, which is for the driver to win the race, right? And so how do we align what we're doing? How do we create the meaningful work that each employee is doing and align that with organizational goals so we can create a team environment and where they can thrive in that team environment? So again, I take a lot of time to talk about team development, team environment, and what you need to do to align your team together. And I base it all on the pit crews because they're so good at it. And so that's kind of a fun class to take as well. So again, the number 5 skill, leadership skill that you didn't know you needed is to align your team's talents toward a unified goal to bring out the best efforts of your team in order to win the race, basically. Well, there you have it. 5 leadership skills you didn't know you needed. Number 1, make sure that you make expectations crystal clear and manage performance conversations based on the type of employee that they are. Whether they're your best employee, your top performer, whether they're your middle of the road but solid performer in your department, which are most of your employees, or the low performer, the bad employee, and how do you have those meaningful performance conversations that are very different from one another. Number 2, take the time to verify facts, avoid making assumptions, and to be a more effective communicator in your department. If you can do that well, then you can resolve a lot of issues that may be in your department right now. Number 3, help your employees communicate that they truly care about the customers in your organization and that the organization cares about them as well. And how do we initiate that? How do we develop that in our employees, and how do we do that? Number 4, be really good at behavioral-based interviewing to find a candidate that will be a good job fit for your organization. And not only on the skill side of things, but also on the behavior side of things, or personality. You need to measure all those things, and how do you do that? And then number 5, align your team's efforts and talents toward a unified goal to bring out the best efforts of your team and to be successful as an organization. I hope you'll consider taking these classes. I think they're beneficial. Again, they come from many years of experience in human resources and the wisdom that I've received in many different environments, what works, what doesn't work, and pretty practical things. And hopefully, if you haven't figured it out by now, I'm kind of an informal kind of guy. I like to have a lot of fun when I'm teaching. So I'm offering these courses online, but I also do it in person. I would love to come on site and deliver these courses to you and others in your organization if you find that they're useful. And I also do coaching. So if that's something that you'd like, please go to clippcoaching.com and you can communicate. And then you can communicate with me through that venue, and we can get you scheduled and set up for just time for us to talk and chat about what your needs are and how I might be able to help you. So again, thanks for watching. I hope these tips helped you, and I really hope that you have interest in taking the full courses, because I provide a lot of good tips, I think, in the courses. And one of the things that may be a little bit different about my classes also is that I try to have some tools for you by the end of the class. Even though they're online, I provide a lot of documents and tools for you So you can go right from this course, take the tools with you right into your employment and begin implementing the things that we talk about. And if you'd like to set up a time to do some coaching, that would be even more effective, is if you could take these courses online and then I could come in as your coach and we could walk through these tips and suggestions and models that I share with you and see how they work. And I will be right there by your side. I call it elbow support. I can be your elbow support as you implement many of these practices that I know will make you a more effective leader. And again, that's my passion, is to create powerful leaders. Again, thanks for watching. Look forward to sharing with you in the future.